You know what Gauranga means? A Hari. When will time come when I chant the name of Gauranga and there'll be a shivering in the body? When will I chant the holy name of Hari and tears will flow from my eyes? When will Lord Nityananda show me his mercy and all my desires for material enjoyment will seem insignificant? When my mind becomes purified from all material desires, then I'll be able to see the land of Vrindavan. When will the six Goswamis bestow upon me, by following them, bestow upon me their mercy, and I'll be able to understand the conjugal pastimes of Radha and Krishna? When will the time come when I'll become a sincere follower of Rupa and Raghunath and always follow in their footsteps? That's the translation. Narottam Das Thakur. Om Agyanatimanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakans Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchena Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudha Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Trivyascha Kripa Sindhuvyevacha Patidanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 13. Brahma stealing the boys and the calves. Text number 25, without 23, with no purport. So I'll just read the translation. Thereafter, O Maharaj Parikshit, as required according to the scheduled round of his pastimes, Krishna returned in the evening, entered the house of each of the cowherd boys, and engaged exactly like the former boys, thus enlivening their mothers with transcendental pleasure. The mothers took care of the boys by massaging them with oil, bathing them, smearing their bodies with sandalwood pulp, and decorating them with ornaments. Chanting protective mantras, decorating their bodies with tilak, and giving them food. In this way the mothers served Krishna personally. Did your mother do that to you too? What's that?
The mantra part.
They left out the mantra part. What about the sandalwood pulp and the oil? Tilak? Gave you food.
Yeah.
Good. Something was there. Thereafter, all the cows entered their different sheds and began mooing loudly, calling for the respective calves. When the calves arrived, the mothers began licking the calves' bodies again and again, profusely feeding them with the milk flowing from their milk bags. Purport. All the dealings between the calves and their respective mothers, taking care of them, were enacted by Krishna himself. Text 25. Gopinam matri tasmin asit snehardikam vina parovat asvapi hares tokata maya vina Gopinam matri tasmin asit snehardikam vina parovat ashvapi hares Tokata maya vina Gopina matritasmin asit snehadikam vina parovat asvapi hares Gopinam. For both the cows and the gopis, the elderly cowherd men and women, matrita, motherly affection, asmin, unto Krishna, asit, there ordinarily was, sneha, of affection, ridikam, any increase, vina, without, puratavat, like before, asu, there was among the cows and gopis, api, although, hare, of Krishna, Tokata, Krishna is my son. Maya vina, without Maya. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Previously, from the very beginning, the gopis had motherly affection for Krishna. Indeed, their affection for Krishna exceeded even their affection for their own sons. In displaying their affection, they had thus distinguished between Krishna and their sons, but now that distinction disappeared. Please repeat. Previously, from the very beginning, the gopis had motherly affection for Krishna. Indeed, their affection for Krishna exceeded even their affection for their own sons. In displaying their affection, they had thus distinguished between Krishna and their sons. But now that distinction disappeared. Purport. The distinction between one's own son and another son is not unnatural. Many elderly women have motherly affection for the sons of others. They observe distinctions, however, between those other sons and their own men and their own. But now the elderly gopis could not distinguish between their own sons and Krishna. For since their own sons have been taken by Brahma, Krishna had expanded as their sons. Therefore, their extra affection for their sons, who were now Krishna himself, was due to bewilderment, resembling that of Brahma. was due to bewilderment resembling that of Brahma. Previously, the mothers of Sridham, Sudam, Subala, and Krishna's other friends did not have the same affection for one another's sons. But now the gopis treated all the boys as their own. Shukadeva Goswami therefore wanted to explain this increment of affection in terms of Krishna's bewilderment of Brahma. The gopis, the cows, and everyone else was bewildered. We should become so bewildered. So everything is simultaneously one and different from Krishna. And therefore, since everyone is an individual, everyone has different tastes for different things. But when Krishna himself appears, and he's fully there, Purnam Purnasya Purnanam, Purnam Eva Vishishete, then one doesn't have any distinction, because one is unlimitedly attracted to Krishna. And whatever, if he's fully there, then one becomes fully attracted to him. Otherwise, we may become attracted, but not as full as if we were attracted by Krishna. Next translation. Although the inhabitants of Brajabhumi, the cowherd men and cowherd women, previously had more affection for Krishna than for their own children, now for 1 year their affection for their own sons continuously increased, for Krishna had now become their sons. So, because they were unlimitedly attracted to Krishna, when Krishna became their sons, they became unlimitedly attracted to their sons. So if you want to become unlimitedly attractive, then you have to become Krishna. Otherwise, we have to settle whatever attraction we may have. There is no limit to the increment of their affection for their sons, who are now Krishna. Every day they found new inspiration for loving their children as much as they love Krishna. In this way, Krishna, having himself become the cowherd boys and the groups of calves, maintained himself by himself. Thus he continued his pastimes both in Vrindavan and in the forest for 1 year. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if you could expand yourself and then you can play all the games with yourself? That way you always win. You win every game. Of course, you'd also lose every game, but at least you'd win every game too. And if you lost to yourself, you wouldn't feel so bad. Everything with purport, everything was Krishna. The calves, the cowherd boys, and their maintainer himself were all Krishna. In other words, Krishna expanded himself in varieties of calves and cowherd boys and continued his pastimes uninterrupted for 1 year. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's expansion is situated in everyone's heart as a super soul. Similarly, instead of expanding himself as a super soul, he expanded himself as a portion of calves and cowherd boys for 1 continuous year. That way, if you're a cowherd boy, you can herd yourself. It must have been quite easy to get control of the calves because they're all Krishna. One day, 5 or 6 nights before the completion of the year, Krishna, tending the cows, entered the forest with Balaram. Just imagine Balaram, who's Krishna himself, he didn't know what was going on. How nicely Krishna was able to cover everything. Up to this time, even Balaram was captivated by the bewilderment that covered Brahma. Even Balaram did not know that all the calves and the cowherd boys were expansions of Krishna, or that he himself was also an expansion of Krishna. This was disclosed to Balaram just 5 or 6 days before the completion of the year. He didn't know he was an expansion of Krishna. Well, we knew, reading Bhagavatam, we know something more than Balaram knew. Since he's a super soul in everyone's heart, that's pretty amazing. His partial expansion is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Krishna's Yogamaya is pretty impressive. Thereafter, while pasturing on top of Govardhan Hill, the cows looked down to find some green grass, and they saw the calves pasturing near Vrindavan, not very far away. When the cows saw their own calves from the top of Govardhan Hill, they forgot themselves and their caretakers because of increased affection, and although the path was very rough, they ran towards the calves with great anxiety, each running as if with one pair of legs. Their milk bags full and flowing with milk, their heads and tails raised, their humps moving with their necks, they ran forcefully until they reached the calves to feed them. Purport. Generally, the calves and the cows were pastured separately. The elderly men took care of the cows, and the small children see to the calves. This time, however, the cows immediately forgot their position as soon as they saw the calves below Govardhan Hill, and they ran with great force, their tails erect and their fronts and hind legs joined, till they reached their calves. That's pretty fast. The hind legs and the front legs were conjoined. They're running so fast. We should try to run so fast towards Krishna. A little anxiety that they had. The cows, having given birth to their new calves, but while coming down from Govardhan Hill, the cows became, because of increased affection for the elder calves, allowed the elder calves to drink milk from their milk bags, and then began licking the calves' bodies in anxiety, as if wanting to swallow them. Imagine how sweet it must be. The calves must have tasted. They're all expansions of Krishna. Krishna is sweet like sugar candy. So if you want to taste something sweet, become a cow in Vrindavan, and you can lick the body of Krishna as a calf. Even at the end of the day of Brahma, when there's an annihilation, Krishna spends the time of the annihilation, approximately 4,300,000,000 years, on a lotus leaf with his big toe in his mouth, because he heard that his lotus feet are very sweet. So in order to taste it, he spends the 4,300,000,000 years tasting his lotus toe to see how sweet it is. So if Krishna thinks it's sweet, imagine how sweet we must think it is. Text 32. The cowherd men, having been unable to check the cows from going to their calves, felt simultaneously ashamed and angry. They crossed the rough road with great difficulty, but when they came down and saw their own sons, they were overwhelmed by great affection. Purport: everyone was increasing in affection for Krishna. When the cowherd men coming down from the hill saw their own sons, who were no one else than Krishna, their affection increased. At that time, all the thoughts of the cowherd men merged in the mellow of paternal love, which was aroused by the sight of their sons. Experiencing a great attraction, their anger completely disappeared. They lifted their sons, embraced them in their arms, and enjoyed the highest pleasure by smelling their sons' heads. Purport: after Brahma stole the original cowherd boys and calves, Krishna expanded himself to become the boys and calves again. Therefore, because the boys were actually Krishna's expansions, the cowherd men were especially attracted to them. At first, the cowherd men who were on top of the hill were angry, but because of Krishna, the boys were extremely attractive, and therefore the cowherd men immediately came down from the hill with special affection. Translation: Thereafter, the cowherd men, having obtained great feeling from embracing their sons, gradually and with great difficulty and reluctance, ceased embracing them and returned to the forest. But as the men remembered their sons, tears began to roll down from their eyes. Purport. In the beginning, the cowherd men were angry that the cows were being attracted by the calves. When the men came down from the hill, they themselves were attracted by their sons, and therefore the men embraced them. To embrace one's son and smell his head are symptoms of affection. Do they still do that in India? They smell the heads of their sons? Maybe. Because of increased affection, the cows had constant attachment, even to those calves that were grown up and stopped sucking milk from their mothers. When Baladev saw this attachment, he was unable to understand the reason for it, and thus he began to consider as follows. Purport. The cows had younger calves who had started sucking milk from their mothers, and some of the cows had newly given birth, but now, because of love, the cows enthusiastically showed their affection for the older calves, which had left off milking. These calves were grown up, but still the mothers wanted to feed them. Therefore Balaram was a little surprised, and he wanted to inquire from Krishna about the reason for their behavior. The mothers were actually more anxious to feed the older calves, although the new calves were present, because the older calves were expansions of Krishna. These surprising events were taking place by the manipulation of Yogamaya. There are two Mayas working under the direction of Krishna. Mahamaya, the energy of the material world, and Yogamaya, the energy of the spiritual world. These uncommon events were taking place because of the influence of Yogamaya. From the very day on which Brahma stole the calves and boys, Yogamaya acted in such a way that the residents of Vrindavan, including Lord Balaram, could not understand how Yogamaya was working, causing such uncommon things to have happened. But as Yogamaya gradually acted, Balaram in particular was unable to understand what was happening, and therefore he inquired from Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthapute Srimate Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Pasika Dhyade Satarana. We have to appreciate that Prabhupada was writing these purports just days before he left his body. So Prabhupada was completely transcendental to his seemingly material body. We also have to appreciate how Krishna has two energies, Yogamaya and Mahamaya. And right now we get a little experience of Yogamaya, and we have a lot of experience of Mahamaya. And how Mahamaya is able to completely bewilder us. And we think it's completely natural. Because we're under Krishna's energy. How we can understand, for instance, we're not this body, and act as if we are the body and the mind completely. So that's under the spell of Mahamaya. But if we want to get out of Mahamaya, if we want to look in the sky and see the sun rising at its appointed time and setting at its appointed time and be in awe, not think, oh, there goes the sun again. Of course it's supposed to do that. What else is it supposed to do? It all happened by accident, by chance. So, because of that, we're so dull. Every moment we're seeing amazing things happening, and we just take everything completely for granted. So that's the dullness of Mahamaya. Mahamaya can put the soul into the body of a tree and stand there for millions of years or thousands of years and not be at all disturbed by the fact that they're a tree. if I had my magic wand and I said, become a tree, and you became a tree, and you still had your consciousness, you'd object, why'd you do that to me? But under the spell of Mahamaya, one could become a tree and be perfectly satisfied being a tree, so-called satisfied. Simply accepted for 10,000 years being a tree. Maybe they complain amongst each other, the trees. It's getting a little cold this winter. What happened to my leaves? Have you seen them around? So Mahamaya is also wonderful, how she's kept unlimited souls under the spell of illusion. But Mahamaya, Yogamaya is much more wonderful than Mahamaya. Much more exciting to be under Yogamaya than Mahamaya. Although they try to make Mahamaya exciting with all these movies, because people's lives are so dull, they have to make an imaginary movie. But these imaginary movies are just reflections. Well, first of all, they're reflections of the reality that goes on in places like maybe the heavenly planets, where they actually have some exciting activities. And ultimately, the most exciting is going on in the spiritual world, where everything is exciting, because everything is full of love and full of pleasure. Ecstatic love and ecstatic pleasure, based all concentrated around an unlimitedly exciting and ecstatic personality, Krishna. Text 36. What is this wonderful phenomena? The affection of all the inhabitants of Braj, including me, towards these boys and calves is increasing as never before, just like our affection for Krishna, the supersoul of all living entities. Purport. The increase of affection was not Maya, rather because Krishna had expanded himself as everything, and because the whole life of everyone in Vrindavan was meant for Krishna, the cows, because of affection for Krishna, had more affection for the elderly calves than for the new calves. And the men increased in their affection for their sons. Balaram was astonished to see all the residents of Vrindavana so affectionate towards their own children, exactly as they had been for Krishna. Similarly, the cows had grown affectionate toward their calves as much as towards Krishna. Balaram was surprised to see the acts of Yogamaya. Therefore he inquired from Krishna, "What's happening here? What is this mystery?" Translation: Who is this mystic power, and where has she come from? Is she a demigod or a demoness? She must be the illusory energy of my master, Lord Krishna, for who else can bewilder me? Purport. Balaram was surprised. The extraordinary show of affection, this extraordinary show of affection, he thought was something mystical, perhaps either by the demigods or some wonderful man. Otherwise, how could this wonderful change take place? This Maya must be some Rakshashi Maya, he thought. But how can Rakshashi Maya have any influence upon me? This is not possible. Therefore, it must be the Maya of Krishna. So Balaram is the first expansion of Krishna. He is exactly the same with Krishna, but still Krishna has obviously some special power of Yogamaya that he could bewilder even Balaram. He thus concluded that the mystical change must have been caused by Krishna, whom Balaram considered his worshipful personality of Godhead. He thought it was arranged by Krishna, and even I could not check its mystic power. Thus Balaram understood that all these boys and calves were only expansions of Krishna. Balaram was extremely intelligent. Thinking in this way, Balaram was able to see with the eyes of transcendental knowledge that all these calves and Krishna's friends were expansions of the form of Krishna. Purport. Every individual is different. There are even differences between twin brothers. Yet when Krishna expanded himself as boys and calves, each boy and each calf appeared as its own original feature, with the same individual ways of acting, the same tendencies, the same color, and the same dress, and so on. For Krishna manifested himself with all these differences. This was Krishna's opulence. So I think I'll stop there. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, do you know maybe a little more about this smelling the heads? What's this all about? If you know.
I have no idea. Do you know anything about smelling the head?
It was mentioned
Yeah,
twice,
that we know.
I think.
What's that?
It was mentioned twice, so I remember.
Well, obviously it's not a custom we enjoy here in the Western world. I mean, if you smell someone's head, you might get a headache. But in the spiritual world, in the Vedic culture, it's just a custom. It's a sign of affection. It's a way of intimately associating with your children. Do you ever smell your children's heads?
Yes, that's why I remember. I did that, yeah. And I don't know why. But it was very like drawing and yeah.
Probably some past life as a cowherd boy or something.
I don't know. Yeah.
Anyhow, we become Krishna. We enter into Krishna's pastimes. Maybe we'll be able to smell Krishna's head sometime. Anything else? Hvala, Grantaraj, srimad-bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande Haribol.